Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, so this slide shows about jury duty, okay, which is part of the responsibilities of Canadian citizens. Do you think it's important to know your responsibilities? What is your responsibility as a student? Hopefully learn, be respectful, hopefully. Is sitting there with, what do you got in front of you? You do have a piece of paper today. Hey, that's excellent. Okay. What else is your responsibility as a student? Let's take those headphones off. Thank you. Come on, grade 9's responsibilities. Show up. 10. What else? Be prepared. Okay. It's kind of the gist of it. Be respectful. Try to learn. Try to listen. Show up. Be prepared. Today is October 20th. Let's quiet down. Thank you. Girls, on the side as well. And on this side. Under the YCJA, anyone who is 14 or older can choose to be tried by a judge and jury for serious offenses. So, you know, if you think your odds are better with the people, you are welcome to give it a shot. Okay. Otherwise, you can do extrajudicial measures, or you could just, you know, plead guilty, particularly for serious offenses. Okay. Once again, you don't need to write down all of this. Okay. And this is going to be recorded. I'll post these up eventually. Juries are made up of 12 people who make a decision, and it has to be unanimous, which means that they all must agree on the verdict. The verdict is their decision. So if one person disagrees and thinks, no, this person is innocent, guilty, whatever they decide, then they all have to redo the process. I'm not sure at what point, maybe it's in the slideshow, I can't remember right now, at what point they decide to pick 12 new people, if they simply just cannot come to a conclusion or a conclusive decision. At some point they will pick different people. If you are sent a letter calling you to jury duty, then you must go. My cousin was actually called up for jury duty. I remember him being a weasel about how to get out of it. I don't know what became of it. But I think they bring in about 150 people and they narrow it down to 12. Anyone older, anyone above the age of 18 is eligible for jury duty. Okay. Now, if you have been convicted of a crime, you can't serve as a juror. So that responsibility, I don't know if you want to call it a right, is removed if you have convicted a crime. Similar to voting, right? Although actually not in Canada, never mind, in America.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's unfair?
No.
How come? How come? But then that means that the people who are being good citizens and not committing crimes, like they might get called up to jury duty and they have to go. You don't think that's unfair for us?
Well, like if you're a good citizen, then you should make a good and like the right decision. Like, but someone who's got like a tainted mind, they're not gonna make a proper decision.
That's a good point, right? So someone who has been convicted of a crime might not like the criminal system, justice system, let's say. So they might just say, not guilty, even though all the evidence suggests that this person is guilty, right? We have footage of this person doing the crime, not guilty.
And you clearly see that it is.
Yes, exactly, right? So, I guess the point here is that it might be a conflict of interest. So, if you get called to jury duty, you have a lot of responsibility you got to take. You have to tell your boss or whoever you need to that, hey, like I got summoned to jury duty. You have to organize how you're gonna get to the court. You have to organize and make sure you're there on time.
Bless you.
Might still be one more in there. Thank you.
Just get out, sir.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily sure how this would work. Let's say if you're out of the country for an extended period of time, you could perhaps be fined for not showing up, but it is your responsibility to make sure that you can be there. It is your responsibility if you're not there, like you're accountable for not being there. So you're not just allowed to skip out because, you know, oh, I had anxiety, Your Honor.
What if you're in a different country at that time?
I just made that point.
They can call you back and you have to.
No, I'm not sure what happens, right? So if you're out of country and the mail shows up to your house, you know, and you can prove that, hey, I was out of country from this date to this date. I had no idea I received this letter. I'm not sure what happens there. That might be gray area, but again, it's entirely possible that you could be held accountable for not showing up because who are you to leave your house when the government needed you?
Wow, we didn't know the government needed us.
But you didn't get
like a
them,
month
like-
in advance, though, like a while
Yeah.
in advance.
Yeah.
So if we were listening, I clarified at the start, if you were out of the country long term, let's say some people spend 6 months, I don't know, in Arizona because it's warm there, and then they spend 6 months here, so they never see winter. So let's say you leave, a week later, you get a letter in the mail calling you to jury duty, you don't come back, right?
Who dislikes winter that much?
People who just like
People
winter.
have money to go down to Arizona.
Yeah, people who can afford to live in warm places all the time, probably.
I definitely want to do that.
Everyone look at Adam.
Okay. So your boss, your employer, school, whatever, they can't say, no, you're not allowed to go. They're not allowed to withhold you from, you know, your responsibility here. And yeah, because you have a letter, you know, you can prove that, hey, I actually was summoned. So you have legitimate evidence. But if going on jury duty would cause you undue hardship, and I don't know the extent of what that includes, then you can be excused from jury duty. Question?
You have jury duty and your mom dies the day after jury.
Would you have to skip a funeral
What if
for
your mom's
jury
looking
duty?
at murder and we're going to the trial?
If you know the person involved in the crime, then you can't be on jury duty. So that you'd go for the selection process. They would discriminate against you for that.
What if
right?
what if you know them but you
Yeah,
have like
same
zero
scenario.
connection
No, same
at all?
scenario. No. How can you have zero connection if you know the person?
He's like solid out in public once and
You
waves.
just don't admit that you have any connection.
So remember how yesterday we talked about lying to the authorities is also a crime?
But what if you?
So authorities can lie to us.
Based
We can
in-
lie to us.
If it's undue hardship, then maybe, right? Like if you have a funeral on a particular day and it's important to you. I don't know the full extent of it, right? Like they might say, well, your responsibility as a citizen is greater than attending a funeral.
No, it's not.
I don't know,
Wedding is-
right?
So authorities can lie to us, but we can't lie to the authorities? That makes no sense.
So if you're on jury duty, you have to use only evidence and the law to reach a verdict. You can't, you know, this comes back to our first conversation in this chapter that, you know, why is justice blind, right? So you shouldn't take your preconceived notions into the court with you and make a decision based on that. But it's still the prosecution and the defense, it's still their job to weed out people that they think wouldn't be suitable for jury duty. One thing that makes you unsuitable is if you have had interacted with these people before, right? Even if you know them peripherally by any chance. Unless, you know, obviously in the case of, let's say, a celebrity trial, right? So when O.J. Simpson had a jury, you know, it might be very hard to find 12 people who've never heard of a very elite and famous football player.
What
was that?
about if Kanye West gets arrested?
So there's a number of things that make you ineligible to be on jury duty.
Like my age.
Here are some terms, so you're gonna get this PowerPoint, and there's another document I'll post or print out maybe at some point. The defense is the lawyer who represents the person being accused of a crime. Okay. Which includes all the evidence, witnesses that support his or her innocence. Okay. Remember, in the Canadian law, you are innocent until proven guilty. Okay. I'm gonna give you a document that has these key terms on it, so you don't need to write this down.
Good morning, you want to take notes?
Prosecution includes the evidence and witnesses that support the guilt of the accused. Sequester means to remove from contact. So the jurors, they sequester to make sure they do not have any contact with ideas outside of the evidence presented in the courtroom. So when you're on jury duty, you're kind of isolated from the world. You're not even allowed to watch the news because they don't want that to impact how you might make your decision. Reporters aren't allowed to come up to you and talk to you. It's actually illegal for them to do that, to ask you about the trial. People aren't allowed to influence you. Your contact with the world is very limited. Okay? And that's because, you know, what if you call up your mom or your friend and you're talking to them and they start blabbing on and on about what they think should be right or wrong? Well, they don't have access to the evidence, right? So you shouldn't take their opinion into consideration. So as a juror, you're not allowed contact with these people, right? So you basically just sit by yourself, I think, in a hotel room. Additionally, I don't think they're allowed to talk to one another outside of the courtroom as well. I could be wrong on that, but I'm quite certain. Okay, I'm gonna hand this out to you.